Hey pianists, I hope you guys are all doing well. So today we will begin our in-depth study of the song Autumn Leaves. So for this week we're going to be approaching it the way we've been approaching tunes in the past. We'll be playing the melody with two-note voicings in the left hand, just like we did with What Is This Thing Called Love? And then we'll also comp through the tune with a two-feel bass line and four notes in the right hand for comping. Just so you know, going forward with it, we're going to be eventually also working on comping through this tune in all 12 keys. And then next term we'll even work on some other things to do with it in terms of improvisation. It's a fun and also with some other ways of comping through it. So it's exciting. Definitely by the end of this year, if nothing else, you will really know the song Autumn Leaves. Yeah, the first thing I'd suggest is that you listen to the song. One of the big things for this week that's going to make everything else much easier is really getting the form of this song in our heads. It's actually kind of an unconventional song form. It starts with an 8-bar A section, and that repeats. But then it goes to a B section that's kind of different than like a traditional bridge. It's not like an AABA song. It's kind of this AA long B is the form of this song. So we really want to get that in our head. I'd really suggest listening to, in particular, there's a lot of classic versions of this, but I think of like probably the most definitive is Cannonball Adderley's recording off of the album Something Else. That actually is one of the rare instances of Miles Davis as a sideman. But Miles plays the melody on it, and it's really a classic recording. Interestingly, they don't do there's a 2/5 whole step turnaround that we'll talk about when we get there, that they don't actually do on that recording. But it still is a pretty definitive recording, especially kind of the intro figure and just everything about it is really great. So I'd encourage you to listen to that recording. There's a zillion other great recordings of this song. Nat King Cole, to hear it with the lyrics and kind of a more original version. And who else? Ahmad Jamal has a great classic version of this song. So yeah, lots of great versions of this song. Anyway, you want to get that song form in your head, because that's going to make it so much easier as we move to playing through it in the different keys. This week we are only doing it in the key of G minor, so that's kind of a nice thing. All right, I'm just going to go through it and I'll kind of talk about things as they seem important. It begins, we're dealing with it in G minor. It begins with a 2-5-1 in B flat major. So B flat major and G minor are related keys. They're, B flat major is the relative major of G minor. Or you could say G minor is the relative minor of B flat major. And 90% of this song is just the 2-5-1 in relative major, moving to 2-5-1 in relative minor. So it begins with 2-5-1 in relative major. Then it goes to the 4 chord. So we've got 2-5-1-4 in major. And then we have a 2-5-1 in minor. That's going to happen again for the next 8 bars. And then the bridge starts with the 2-5-1 in minor. Then it does 2-5-1-4 in major. Then it does 2-5-1 in minor, but that 1 in minor, instead of being a 1 chord, ends up being a 2 in minor. And then we do a whole step cycle, a 2-5 whole step cycle, which lands us on the 4 chord of the relative major. And then we have a 2-5-1 in minor. So I'll kind of cover that as we're playing through it, but that's the gist of this song. Now you'll want to read it off of the lead sheet, but I am attaching some handouts where you can fill in the voicings as you find helpful. You don't want to read off of that, but it's useful for working out what you'll be playing. Okay, so let's do this. Here's the 2-note voicings. I chose to start with root and 7th in the left hand. And that's mostly because in the right hand in the melody, you're sitting on the thirds a lot. So it seemed like it would be good to have the root and 7th instead of root and 3rd in the left hand, so that you're getting more pitches. Okay, so here we go. A 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Now notice I'm playing root and 6th. We're playing that G minor chord as a G minor 6 chord or G minor 6-9 chord. We're not playing the 7th on it. In reality, if you're at a jam session or something, somebody might play it as a minor 7 instead of a minor 1 chord, and that could be fine. It's not the end of the world. But for our purposes, we're getting used to these minor 6-9 chords as tonic. So we're playing that, and it's such a great sound too, because that's a really cool sound. I'll just pause to mention it. We're playing an E natural, so it's that major 6, which falls outside of the key of G minor. In our key signature, we have a B flat and an E flat. So it's kind of hip playing that E natural. There's a nice sort of tension in that. And then we go on to the second A. And I just lifted my left hand up from that G minor 6. I just picked it up and placed it down. That seemed like a convenient and musical point to kind of break with the voice leading, because otherwise we'd be getting pretty low. So here's the second A. Notice the melody is slightly different at the end of the second A than the first A. So now we're at letter B. And in reality, people at this G minor 6-9 chord, they'll often play that as a G minor 7. Or a lot of times what they'll even do is do a walk down. Right, so that's like, the octave, and then major 7, minor 7, 6th. But for us, we're just going to do root and 6th, root and 13th, I guess, or 6th. So here's going on to the second part of the next 4 bars. Now here it actually is a G minor 7 chord, and it's 2-5. So that's a 2-5 in F, and then a 2-5 in E flat. Okay, and it's a little low, you know, but I think it's cool. And then I just lift up my left hand. And then for our turnaround is a G7 altered. And of course, you don't have to play it as whole notes in your left hand. You can do some nice rhythmic things. So I'll just play through the whole form with just being a little more rhythmic in my left hand. So a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. All right. So that's the melody with the two-note voicings. And please shoot me an email if you have any questions about that. The next part is the comping. So in the left hand, we're going to be just playing roots on 1 and usually fifths on beat 3. If it's a dominant 7 altered chord or a minor 7 flat 5 chord, then instead of playing the perfect fifth, we'll play the flat fifth. I'm trying to think if there's anything else worth mentioning. I think that's the main stuff. In our right hand, this is going to be, you know, voice leading the way we've been talking about voice leading. So we're starting with a 2-5-1 in major. So we're going to have basically our thirds moving to sevenths, moving to thirds, moving to sevenths. And our sevenths moving to thirds, moving to sevenths, moving to thirds. And basically we'll have that 5th, 9th, 13th kind of motion happening with our color tones. Looking at C minor 7, we have root on beat 1. And then I thought, a nice place that's going to feel good is having the 7th on bottom to start. Because, as we move through the progression, our voicings move lower gradually. So this is a pretty nice place that gives us some room to move downward. So that's our 7th, and the 3rd is E flat. So that's our root and core. That's all the harmonic foundation. And then, it's a 2 chord, so that means it's going to have the 9th, that's a D, and the 5th, that's a G. This is a good place to start. And I'm just going to now voice lead through this. We've got C minor to F7. Okay, so that was just a 2-5-1 in B flat major. I will just go through real quick, going from the B flat major to the E flat major. So this is going from a 1 chord to a 4 chord. So in terms of our left hand, we now have an E flat as our root. The A, that 7th of B flat major, moves down to a G and becomes the 3rd of E flat major 7. Right? The D of B flat major, right, the 3rd, stays where it is and becomes the 7th of E flat major 7, right? So we've got that 3rd 7th motion. Right, the 9th of B flat major, that C, stays where it is and is now the 13th of E flat major. So we've got that 9th, 13th motion, and then the 13th of B flat major moves down and becomes the 9th of E flat major. So that's the G to the F. We put it all together and it sounds like this. Okay, and then we voice lead a 2-5-1 in G minor. And again, we're going to a G minor 6-9 chord, not a G minor 7 chord. Yeah, so. And notice in the left hand, that bass line for, here's the A minor 7 flat 5, it goes up to an E flat, the flat 5th. And then the D7 altered. We've got the root, but then on beat 3, we've got the A flat, it's the flat 5th. Okay, and then we've got the G minor 6-9. Next A section, next 8 bars are exactly the same. Okay, now the bridge, it's 2-5-1 in G minor. And I shouldn't call it the bridge, but the B section. Then 2-5-1-4 in B flat major. Right, so this is what we've, just like the first 4 bars of the tune. Okay, now we've got 2-5 in G minor. Now here we've got a 2-5 in F, right? So that G minor, instead of going to a G minor 6-9 chord, we're going to a G minor 7 chord, and we're treating it as a 2 chord. So it's 2-5 in F. And then we're going down a whole step. So it's a 2-5 whole step cycle. So next is 2-5 in E flat. To my ears, this is a nice place to jump up, but you don't have to do that. You could keep moving downward, but to me this sounds like a nice place to jump up. Kind of freshens things up a little, and keeps us from getting crazy low. So I jumped up on that F minor chord. So putting it all together from measure 25, or from that last 4 bars that we just did, here's the A minor 7 flat 5, and now we land on the 1 of E flat major, which is the 4 of B flat major, and then we have a 2-5-1 in G minor. And then for our turnaround is a G7 altered chord. So the neat thing about that is we actually can take our voicing that we had for that G minor 6-9 and just take all of those notes up a half step. And then it's a D flat because it's an altered chord. And that's going to lead us nicely down a half step to the C minor at the top of the form. Okay, putting all that together, I'm just going to comp through it. I'm going to be a little more rhythmic in my right hand. I'll keep my left hand just playing half notes. I just want, nice even. You want the left hand generally to feel real even, like you're laying down a carpet for everyone to swing over. So here's the comping on Autumn Leaves. A 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so you may have noticed in my right hand, I mostly was just hitting like the and of one. That was mostly it, but that really adds a nice sense of swing and groove to it. So that's your assignment for this week. And, hearing the words in your head can be really helpful. Just, so much of this week is just, getting this song really in our ears, and having it, knowing how we want it to sound will make it so much easier when we go to transpose uh, the song and just so listen to the song, play through it, let me know what questions you have, and I look forward to hearing you play. All right, guys, have a good week.